EJ here at the Back Porch Antiques, and today I'm going to tell you 5 things that you need to know in order to make a successful run at having an antique booth in an antique mall or an antique store somewhere. It's not just by happenstance that this happens. There's a certain method to all this madness in which you can be successful. And like any other business endeavor, you can do everything right and still not be exactly successful. However, there are some things that you can do that will better your chances at being profitable in this business and being successful. One, you have to know the value of things. It also helps to have a market-specific area in which you want to sell. That might be primitives, that might be mid-century modern, that might be tools, that might be vintage clothing. Whatever your market is, it's okay to branch into a couple of those. But the more successful booths will be centered and specific on one specific item, 1 or 2 specific items, and you absolutely have to know what those things are worth. Now there are several ways in which you can do that, but one of the best ways is to see how they're selling in other antique stores. That's a great way to do that, be out and about trying to figure out comparable prices. One of my favorite ways, and you probably already know this, is the eBay sold filter. So if you search a certain thing on eBay, you can filter that search to those things that have sold. And it'll tell you not what somebody's asking, not what somebody's hoping to get a bid for, but what those items have sold for. One thing to keep in mind about that is that could be regional. There are things that will sell well in California through eBay that will not sell well here in Greenville, Tennessee, and vice versa. There are things that will sell here in Greenville, Tennessee at the Back Porch Antiques, things like Harmon Crocks or things like Greenville, Tennessee soda bottles. Things like that will sell better here at the Back Porch Antiques than they will on a national or international market. But you need to know that. You need to know what they buy for, what you can buy it for, and you need to know what you can sell it for. In order to do that, you need to figure out a price spread, where you're comfortable at making a profit at. There are certain times and certain things, and for me there are specific levels of that. At a certain point I need to make so much. If it gets more valuable than that, then of course that number can fall down just a little bit more. It depends on what the profit spread is. Figure out a percentage above what it costs you to do business and where you'd be comfortable at, and that's where you need to buy those particular things at. So again, number 1, you have to know the value of what it is that you're going to sell. And number 2, you need to know where you can get these sorts of things. Now, there are successful eBay resellers. It's not one of my favorite options because the people who are selling on eBay normally know pretty well how much they can get for something specifically. It is a sourcing option to buy on eBay and then turn around and sell in other areas. That's a way that you can do it, especially if there are by chance regionally specific things that you might be able to buy cheaper on eBay than you can buy locally. So that's a source. Local auctions. Here in Greenville there is a weekly auction. Shiloh Auction, as a matter of fact, they have a Thursday night sale every Thursday night. Actually the 4th of July week they're going to be off, but most every Thursday night they have sales. If you are dedicated to this business, you could go to sales like that, other auctions, other areas, estate auctions, farm auctions, all sorts of things like that. If you know what it is that you're looking for and if you know the value of it, shout back to number 1, then you can buy those things at a good price, leaving yourself plenty of room for profit. So it's important to know where you can buy that. There are sourcing options in Goodwill places, thrift stores. Thrift stores are a big sourcing place for things like vintage clothing and things like that. Yard sales. I love a yard sale because it's one of those things that early bird gets the worm. You know, if they've got something priced well and you jump on it, then you can, through your marketing and sourcing, you can potentially make a profit on that. So number 2 is sourcing. You got to be able to find the stuff. Number 3, marketing. Now, the vendors here at the Back Porch Antiques have it pretty good because I'm pretty serious about marketing our vendors at the Back Porch Antiques. We have social media options such as, obviously, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all those sorts of things. We utilize the best of our ability. Now, I am no expert by any means, as you can probably tell by my speaking into this video, thankfully. I have a good producer that makes these look real good. If it were up to me, then it wouldn't be good at all. But social media is a great way to market the things in which you have. The thing about marketing on social media and things like that is there needs to be a regularity to it. People need to expect to hear from you, expect to see from you. Your followers, those who've liked your page, if they're going to be serious about buying from you, then they need to be able to see you often and you posting regularly. So it takes an amount of discipline. There are other ways to market. You can market through Facebook Marketplace. That's a good option if you don't mind all the tire kickers. It seems like there's a lot of those. You can obviously market on eBay. Craigslist used to be a thing, and it can still be used and utilized to some degree. You can even set up roadside stands at flea markets or things like that in ways to market. Some people even still use the good old-fashioned newspaper, and maybe there's still a need for that specifically. But marketing is a very important part of any business. If by chance you're going to set up in a store that isn't heavy on marketing, then you need to take that upon yourself and make yourself visible, because they're not going to buy your stuff if they don't know that you have what they're looking for. So it's important to market something. I just hit on what would be our number 4 thing that you need to know in order to be successful in this business is location. As with anything, location, location, location. You got to be somewhere where the people are. If people are going to buy from you, then they have to have access to your things. Now that location may be the internet. That location may be in an antique mall. That location may be at a regular flea market type setup. Whatever it is that suits your genre of selling, you need to focus on using that location to the best of your ability. So when looking for a mall to join, location is a big deal. When looking for a place to market your things, it's very important that you do that. You know, as the old Disney song says, where the people are. You got to be where the people are.
I want to be where the people are,
in order to be able to sell the things that you have. Lastly, the last thing that you need to know, and it is the absolute most important, above knowing what stuff costs, above location, above marketing skill, above all of that, you have to have a solid work ethic. If you're not willing to put in the hours, to put in the legwork, to put in the sweat equity, I think it's safe to say that no business would be successful. The same is true with a vintage and antique business, such as a booth at an antique store or something along those lines. One thing specifically, if you do have a booth in an antique store, you need to keep that fresh. I tell my vendors here, not everybody is suited to this specifically, but my most successful vendors are here at the store 2 or 3 times a week. They're bringing in new things, they're swapping it around. I'm a firm believer that if something hadn't sold in 6 months, you got to move it. It's best to move it out of the booth, but if you can't move it out of the booth, move it around. Once annually, I tell my vendors it's a great idea to take everything out of your booth and resort it. It's kind of a marketing ploy all of its own. When people come in and they see things in different places, they think there's something new. So they're automatically intrigued with what good deal or what new find they're going to latch onto. So there's work in that. There's work ethic that's required in owning and operating a successful vintage and antique market. If you can't put in that work ethic, especially if you are in a co-op type store such as ours, where there's an owner and vendors who partner together for the success of both the individual booths and the success of the store. If you're not willing to come into the store once a week or at least a couple times a month to freshen your booth and to make things work, then you're not doing any good for anybody. Yourself, the store owner, those others who are in the store. I can't highlight the fact enough that the more successful you are, it will be directly related to work ethic and willingness to put in the sweat equity. It's one of those things, if you don't have time to do it, you've either got to make time or don't do it. So those are the 5 things that I think will make you a successful vintage and antique booth owner and operator. And next week, we're going to talk about the possibility of some things that will sink your business. There will be a list such as this of things that will negatively impact your business. So stay tuned for that. Like and subscribe if you haven't. And we're going to thank you for joining us, and share this video if you get the chance. We will catch you later.